So just why is there so much of controversy around the United States Agency for International Development, or USAID? Now, this was a body which was set up way back in 1961 by the then President John F. Kennedy with the precise mandate of bringing together all the American funds which were being spent under various largesses, under various names and categories, on countries in pursuit of greater democracies on their territories, or for furthering of some programs which would have added to human welfare in those countries. Now, with Donald Trump back in the saddle as the US president, it seems that USAID has ended up becoming one of America's primary villains. And why is that? Because along with Mr. Trump, Elon Musk, the biggest disruptor of our times, both of them have concluded that this massive sum of money which was being spent by the United States was all a wasteful sum of money, was all US tax dollars which were being spent on causes that America had nothing to do with. Why is it of interest to us? Because bang in the middle, there is a question now which has been raised by Trump himself about a sum of $21 million. In reality, this $21 million which is supposed to have been paid to India actually never came to India. And that's the beauty. President Trump now has gone on record in the statement which he made in America, where he says that maybe this sum of $21 million was being spent in India, was being sent to India to elect a leader who maybe was not Narendra Modi. Just take a look at this.
And $21 million for voter turnout in India. What do we need to spend $21 million for voter turnout in India? Wow, $21 million. I guess they were trying to get somebody else elected. Wow, we ought to tell the Indian government, because when we hear that Russia spent about $2 in our country, it was a big deal, right?
This statement by President Trump has obviously been lapped up by the who's who of the BJP, and everybody's saying that this only gives greater teeth to the allegations which have been made by the BJP against the opposition parties that they have been funded by foreign powers, specifically the Congress. Have we forgotten Cambridge Analytica? What had happened between 2019 and 2024? On multiple occasions, the Prime Minister himself has often accused the Congress party, Rahul Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi, and other senior leaders of having been hand in glove with forces who are inimical to India's interest. Now, I have a small question here, folks. If USAID under the Biden regime was spending all this money in India on purposes which were inimical to India's interests, then how is it that the same democratic regime had also invited the Prime Minister to give a landmark address to the Joint Committee in the US, the Joint Parliamentary Session? It's an honor which is given to very few people in the history of the United States of America, and Modi was one of them. Did the business suffer between India and America during the democratic regime? No. What is Trump now threatening India with? The question of reverse tariff. But what are we talking about? We're talking about this sum of $21 million, which as such was not sent, was not spent. But if it had been sent, or if it would have been spent, it would have been spent only and only to effect a regime change. See, so many ifs, so many what ifs here. And that is where the story of USAID really lies. Because dig a little deeper, social media now is full of all kinds of instances where money was indeed paid. Money was indeed paid under the same program, USAID, to Indian government ministries, to top Indian politicians across the aisle. Why? Because that is what USAID is meant to do. Is this to suggest that USAID basically is a deep state arm of the US, whose primary responsibility is to see to it that there is always chaos, there's always turbulence in different countries of the world, and the US can use that as a leverage to promote its own interests? But USAID is not the only one. If you look at it, for the last couple of years, consistently the name of George Soros has repeatedly been used. It has been stated that Soros is spending money in India, in other countries of the world, to promote enmity within those countries, to promote chaos within those countries. So whether it was Smriti Irani, or it was Jitendra Singh, or a whole host of other top leaders on the BJP side, what were they doing with this money which is coming from USAID? Should that question also not be raised? So what's the BJP's counter to this? The BJP argues that when you take money from an international donor in the government, then that international donor cannot arm twist the government of the day. But if that international fund or international money is coming into individual accounts or companies' accounts, then that international donor can arm twist those individuals. Does it work for you? Does it not work for you? There have been various theories which have been propounded that even the likes of a Prashant Bhushan and a whole host of other human rights activists, lawyers, have all been beneficiaries of this USAID's program. And the reality is this, folks, that USAID is an institution which has been doing what it has been doing for a very, very long time. It was a stated part of America's foreign policy to continue to be deeply involved in democracies across the world under whatever guise that you can think of. And were they not doing this in India? 100% they were doing this in India. It's only that now that you have a 3-term prime minister, our polity has become completely polarized, so these questions today are being raised. By the way, there are pictures of the prime minister himself where he's sitting on programs which are being monitored by USAID, which are being promoted by USAID.
I think we've done a substantive one here on what has happened or what the recent shipments have been. So 6 air shipments funded by USAID have departed the United States, 5 of which have already arrived in India.
So no matter how much hyper talk is given by our foreign minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, both here as well as in the United States, reality is that USAID as a funding entity has been doing its job over a very, very long period of time. Are we to suggest that the regime change in Bangladesh, for instance, was also a consequence of USAID's funding which was coming into Bangladeshi institutions? If there is an investigation which is done by the Department of Government Efficiency, now being led by Elon Musk in the US, we will get to know. Well, till then, enjoy this political cockfight which is going on between the BJP and the opposition leaders. Both sides have enough ammunition with themselves as far as USAID is concerned, and this story will not die out unless Donald Trump himself asks for an investigation and puts the investigation report out in public domain. If you like the story, if you like this video, do comment in our comment section and do subscribe to our X handle as well as our website.